What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Paddy Pimblett sends a warning to Michael Chandler. We're just days out from the highly anticipated fight between Michael Chandler and Paddy Pimblett at UFC 314, and recently, the baddie issued a pretty clear warning to Iron Mike. Pimblett's been tapped to fight the former Bellator lightweight champion at the April 12th card following his impressive finish of King Green last summer. It's a huge fight for the Scouser, as a win over Chandler could move Pimblett close to the top 5 of the division. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Recently, both men appeared on ESPN at the same time to discuss their fight, and while it's clear that Pimblett respects Chandler for what he's done in the game, he's not short on confidence heading into this one. This is what Pimblett said. He's fought Dustin Poirier, he's fought Justin Gaethje, he's fought Charles Oliveira, all the best lightweights in the division for the past 5 years, but I think I'm gonna make it look easier than they did. Do you know what I mean? They played to Mike's style, they stood there and brawled with him. I think anywhere this fight goes, I'm gonna win. Paddy also noted that he has yet to be knocked out, which prompted Chandler to say the following. Scousers don't get knocked out, apparently, but they've never been hit by the likes of me. I'm really excited to test his chin. I'm excited to test his heart, his mettle. Of course, both men were also asked to make their predictions for the fight. This is Chandler's. I'm gonna go out there and do exactly what I always do. I'm going to have one foot on the gas, one foot on Paddy's throat. I'm gonna throw big bombs and we're gonna see if he sinks or swims. He's never fought a guy like I am, but that doesn't mean he's not the man for the job, so we'll see how it plays out. All I know is I'm gonna have my hand raised Saturday night. Here's the baddie's prediction for the bout. I think I'm gonna finish Mike in 2. I'll just say I think I can finish the fight anywhere. He loves lunging with his punches. I could see me catching him with a shot on the way in, putting him down, or I can actually see me submitting him. I don't see why I lose, to be honest. I really don't. Who are you picking to win the fight? Predictions aside, Chandler also recently posted the following comment via social media, while noting that Pimblett didn't put on a gazillion pounds in between fights, like he's been known to do in the past. Y'all are mean. Paddy has cleaned up his diet and doesn't get as fat as a boo-boo anymore. See you at UFC 314. It should be an interesting fight. Javier Mendez believes Umar won against Merab. There's no question Umar Nurmagomedov proved to be a formidable test for Merab Dvalishvili, as many predicted would be the case. But a few months out from their memorable fight, Umar's coach still believes he actually won this bout. Heading into UFC 311, Nurmagomedov was the betting line favorite to become the new bantamweight champion. After taking the lead early into the fight, however, Merab came storming back to win by a unanimous decision. Immediately after the fight, Nurmagomedov argued that he did enough to take the bantamweight crown. Well, more recently, his striking coach, Javier Mendez, argued that if not for Merab's showboating, Umar would have taken the fight. Here's some of what Mendez had to say via the Javier and Mo show.
I said, you know what, Umar? The reason why you didn't win is because he showboated his way to winning that. Like, yes. He acted like the victor where you were tired, and that's why I feel he basically took it from you because you led him, but I felt you won, because when you're looking on damage and this and that, but when it comes to presence, he definitely got that. He got that. So, but the actual damage that he did was nothing compared to what Umar did. He did more, but again, he did show that I'm the winner, and Umar couldn't stop him, from showing that, so, I can see how the judges would get swayed on that,
It's an interesting take, and others have questioned over the years if judges are swayed by showboating. It should also be noted that Nurmagomedov and his camp aren't the only people who think Umar's record should still have a 0 in the loss column. All that aside, Merab is preparing to rematch former champion Sean O'Malley at UFC 316 in June. Via O'Malley's YouTube channel, Sugar proposed that Nurmagomedov and Peter Yan should battle next. I mean, that makes sense. Peter versus Umar, that'd be such a sick fight, dude. 5 rounds. Peter skill for skill is still, in my mind, one of the pound for pound top 10 guys in the UFC. He's a bad On paper, there's certainly a lot to like with this fight. What do you think? Should the UFC book Yan versus Nurmagomedov next? UFC fight updates. Let's take a look at some fights that UFC matchmakers have recently lined up. Viana is reporting that flyweight contenders Manel Kopp and Brandon Royval at UFC 317 on June 28th. The card is going down in Las Vegas. Kopp will be looking to move his winning streak to 3 as he's coming off a TKO win over Asu Almabayev last month. Meanwhile, Royval will be looking for his 3rd straight victory after he recorded a split decision win over Tatsuro Taira in October. This is a fight that will very likely award a title shot, as Royval is currently ranked number 1 and Kopp is ranked number 6. And speaking of Kopp, Viana also reported that the explosive fighter has inked a new UFC contract, which will make him the highest paid flyweight in the promotion. If that's accurate, what does it say if Kopp is getting paid more than the champion Alexandre Pantoja? UFC Vegas 105 was hit with a change only hours out from the weigh-ins, as Kennedy Nzechukwu reportedly had to withdraw due to an injury. The heavyweight had been booked to scrap Martin Buday. But if Buday was desperate for a paycheck, the good news for him is that LFA light heavyweight champion Uran Satibaldiv has agreed to step up on very short notice. Buday hasn't fought since last June, when he recorded a split decision win over former heavyweight champ Andrei Arlovski. Satibaldiv, meanwhile, will make his octagon debut, having won all 9 of his pro bouts to date. And Nolan King is reporting that a bantamweight fight between Gaston Bolaños and Kwang Lee has been added to the UFC's May 3rd card in Des Moines, Iowa. Bolaños is coming off a decision win over Cortavius Romius in November, which followed a stoppage loss to Marcus McGee last January. Meanwhile, Lee is in need of a victory after dropping consecutive fights to Long Xiao and Chris Gutierrez. That's a bantamweight fight that has fireworks written all over it. Alex Pereira's rival still in negotiation with UFC. Recently, it was revealed that the last man to defeat Alex Pereira in the kickboxing ring, Artem Vakhitov, had passed on a UFC contract and is returning to glory. But it looks like the renowned kickboxer has not closed the door on fighting on the octagon just yet. Vakhitov recorded a split decision win over Pereira in kickboxing several years ago in what was Poatan's final fight for glory before he joined the UFC. Well, Vakhitov attempted to join his former foe via the Dana White's Contender Series route. Following Vakhitov's stoppage win in the series, White offered him a UFC contract and also reported that Pereira had encouraged him to do so. But more recently, Vakhitov's camp confirmed they passed on the contract, since it was a standard deal all DWCS winners receive. Meanwhile, Vakhitov was offered more cash to fight Glory's heavyweight champion Rico Verhoeven on June 14th, so he took that deal. In a follow-up interview with Bloody Elbow, however, the Russian fighter reported that he's still in talks with the UFC. You know, we passed the Contender Series, and during our conversations, unfortunately, we couldn't reach an agreement and didn't agree on some conditions. Then we took a pause in our conversations and negotiations, and the offer came from Glory, so we took that offer. For now, we just didn't sign the contract and are still in negotiations, but now we are in Glory and we're focused on this fight, and maybe we could think about the UFC after this fight. Will the UFC table a higher offer if Vakhitov defeats Verhoeven? One that would compensate him more than if he's Glory's heavyweight champ? Or what if he loses to Verhoeven? Would the UFC just insist he take the standard DWCS contract, which, by the sounds of it, is far from what Vakhitov and his team want? We shall see. Diego Lopes wants to knock out Alexander Volkanovski. Alexander Volkanovski is coming off back-to-back vicious knockouts heading into UFC 314, and Diego Lopes says that the legend is in store for yet another concussion. Lopes has been tapped to face the former featherweight king for the now vacated title, following Ilia Topuria's decision to move up to lightweight. This fight will mark the first time Volkanovski has fought since Topuria put him away in January 2024 to win the 145-pound crown. That loss followed Volk's KO loss to the lightweight king Islam Makhachev in October of 2023, just a few months prior. Well, recently, the UFC released the countdown episode for UFC 314, and in a preview video, Lopes delivered this warning. My grappling is dangerous to him, but I see myself winning this fight by knockout. Given that Volkanovski has been KO'd in back-to-back fights, and on account of Lopes' finishing abilities, it's not surprising to see him making this prediction. Volkanovski, meanwhile, continues to insist that he's far from washed, and that fans will see Alexander the Great at UFC 314. The former champ promised the following: "It isn't just going to be a finish for you guys. You're going to see the dominant Volk that you're used to seeing." Which prediction are you inclined to go with approximately 1 week out from UFC 314? Do you see Volk reclaiming the featherweight crown? Or are we about to enter the championship era of Lopes? Speaking of that, recently Lopes reported that if he wins the featherweight title, his first order of business will be to call for a rematch with Movsar Evloev. And while talking to MMA Junkie, the Brazilian contender said this: "Of course, this fight for me is important because this guy beat me in the past. But now it's different. It's different things. I'm at the top and this guy too. Maybe we'll fight for the title. I'm so excited for the next step, but my focus is on Volkanovski. I win the belt and I will ask the UFC for the fight with Movsar." Given that Evloev has gone undefeated to date and because he defeated Lopes by decision in 2023, you'd think that the UFC will take a long look at making that fight. Really, Evloev could very well be next for a title fight, regardless of who wins at UFC 314. It's also clear that Evloev is aware of this, as the undefeated fighter has subsequently issued this warning. Dana White forced cancel fight last minute. One of the most promising matchups in terms of must-see action has been axed from the UFC Vegas 105 card. On Friday, it was reported that Daniel Santos never weighed in for his fight with Davey Grant. MMA reporter Anna Martin said this on social media. Daniel Santos did not weigh in and the scale has been removed from the stage. Looks like the fight with Davey Grant is off for UFC Vegas 105. Damn, that was a banger too. Santos has withdrawn from his last 3 UFC Fights, exciting fighter who just can't make it to the cage for whatever reason due to medical issues. Daniel Santos is out against Davey Grant. Fight is officially off per Brendan Fitzgerald. Given that Santos has dropped out of his last 3 fights, you gotta wonder if the UFC brass will pause before offering him another one. It is worth noting that he has won back-to-back fights. Henry Cejudo catches hit-and-run suspect. Last night, Henry Cejudo was involved in catching a suspect with his neighbors. So what happened? Apparently, Cejudo and his producer Dylan Rush were home, and as he described it, a vehicle that was going 80 to 100 mph slammed into his neighbor's house. The driver and all the passengers tried to flee the scene, but Cejudo and his 65-year-old neighbor took them down and apprehended the suspects. Cejudo even went as far as describing the details, saying his neighbor got punched multiple times by one of the suspects and escaped before Henry used his wrestling skills by lifting the suspect and then slamming him to the ground and controlling him until the cops arrived. Talk about bad luck running into an Olympic gold medalist. Henry's producer, Dylan Rush, posted a video of Henry Cejudo breaking down what happened.
I just had a group of teenagers, maybe doing about 80 miles an hour. I was just coming out with my producer, Dylan Rush. We happened to see this car go about 80 miles per hour, and pretty much we heard that. This dude's going up a ramp and then smashed into my neighbor's yard. The guy got out, the guy tried to leave, and he ended up assaulting the owner. So I know if these guys had. And then once he hit my neighbor, I was like, all right, man.
How old's your neighbor?
All in. Yeah, so he's in his 60s, and I had to go out there, pick him up, and dropped him, slapped him a little bit, and then some of the neighbors take some clocks at him.
This is what the MMA world had to say about the situation. Imagine you get your ass beat by a 5'3" dude in silk PJs. He probably didn't know what was coming. My man finally won a fight. We just have to take his word for it. Sources say when the police arrived on scene, Henry took a full 5 minutes to recover before resuming the interview, even sitting down for a part of it. Could you imagine you try to hit and run someone and Henry Cejudo comes flying at you in his shiny gold PJs in the middle of the night? I just know while he was being picked up, he thought, how the did I let this hamster in a silk airlift me? Cejudo stood on business, but if it was Sean, he would have shot him. This crazy only happens to UFC fighters. Thank God the neighbors are alright. What are your thoughts on this whole situation? Let us know in the comment section below. Fan attacks Conor McGregor at event. Conor McGregor was allegedly almost attacked by a fan at a recent BKFC event. And before we continue, we have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day. As Conor was signing merch, a fan tried to jump Conor McGregor from behind. Conor's security quickly jumped in and stopped the altercation from happening. The attacker can be seen at the end of the video after Conor's security had put the paws on him. After the incident, you can see Conor McGregor smiling and showing he's okay. Unfortunately, we can't show the footage due to YouTube rules, but you can find the footage online.